What's going on, everybody? So let's start a little bit of a series here for e-scouting. We're going to lean a little bit more towards the public land side of things, but for this first video you can use this for also finding a lease, and maybe you're looking at actually buying a new hunting property and you're trying to figure out if that property would actually be a good buy, and really should you even put the time into that property. There's other factors that go into it. So maybe you're a non-resident hunter and you've got limited time, so you need to find a property that's not going to take you too long to figure out, and really the list kind of goes on. But what I'm going to use here is I'm going to use a couple properties that I've never been to per se. I just found them on my Onyx maps here that will work perfect for this particular video. So a limiting factor, let's talk about that. Really three things. You've got water, food, and bedding cover. And say you've got a big woods property. Big woods property, you're gonna be limited on agriculture fields, right? But you should have plenty mast trees to create food sources. Now, the only thing that you have to think about with the big woods area is it's going to be a lot of open timber, right? Big mature timber. Where are the high stem count areas? Where are that thick brush that the deer are going to migrate to and work the edges? See here, clear cuts, past burns that the vegetation is starting to grow back up and take over again. Areas like that where they're going to have leaves and browse to feed on throughout the day, as well as good cover for them to bed into, kind of tuck themselves back into and feel safe in. Food sources, you know, like I said, say you're hunting a big agriculture area and it's a lot of ag fields with kind of minimal acorns into the trees. Those oak trees may be something you want to key in on because they're very high priority and they're limited. So maybe you'll find very good draw into that oak since they have a bunch of fields to hunt. So it may not do you any good to hunt a lot of the fields just because they won't be very predictable movement. And that's really what we're getting to, is the predicting where the deer are going to move, especially if you've got limited time to hunt. You need to be a lot more precise. You don't have a lot of time to kind of figure out what the deer are doing in the area. So let's pick, I got a spot here that's a lot more of a big woods kind of area. And you can see there's no ag fields around, and honestly pretty minimal water as well. So I'm going to zoom into this spot right here, kind of on the north side of this area here. It looks like, but the maps show that there's some creeks running through it, right? There's also a road running through it, but there's a creek running through it. So a lot of times when you've got that creek, you've got a little bit higher stem count, a little bit more vegetation lower to the ground, and it's going to keep with it being lower in elevation, it's going to keep the temperatures down a little bit. Say you're hunting in September or early October when the temperatures can be a little warm. Deer kind of migrate down to that. You've got a lake over here at the main road, main entrance there. Maybe something to think about looking into, you know what I mean? So that's kind of a limiting factor. I wouldn't necessarily go crazy on water unless you actually put boots on the ground and figure out that it's pretty dry. Once you figure out it's pretty dry, find those little ponds that are hidden, little hidden water holes, and deeper pockets of that creek. So there's going to be spots where maybe that creek gets a little bit deeper. It's going to hold water when the rest of the creek is dry. Find those areas and find the points and the terrain features that funnel down into that. And especially if you can find maybe some oak trees kind of up close to, or some persimmons and pawpaws or whatever's in your area, some mast trees close to that. And that will be something to kind of consider when looking at a place to hunt. You can at least run cameras on it and figure out what's on the area, run an inventory, right? But it'll give you an idea of kind of a starting place to go. A lot of times I don't see, especially I hunt mostly here in the Midwest, so water is important to me, but it's not overly important when I'm looking at daylight movement. I want it close, but I don't necessarily want to hunt it, just because I personally have not seen a ton of luck where I've been hunting over daylight movement over water. I've seen a lot of, I've used it for inventory purposes to collect data on what bucks are around, and the majority of that data has come at night, which is fine. Then I take that and I spread out and I find those bedding areas close to the water. You don't want that far away, you want it to be close, but maybe not hunt it particular. So say you're hunting let's find a place that has very limited ag. How about that? Okay, so here's a spot that has pretty limited ag. I just picked out one location. It's a big woods property again, but you've got this coming right off the lake. You've got a little bit of an ag field here that's surrounded by big timber and ridges. You've got some ag kind of around the area, but it's pretty sporadic, right? So maybe that'd be something you want to key in on. Those deer prefer the ag fields. They're going to kind of congregate into the ag, or at least somewhat close to it. So maybe hunting the middle of the ridge over here won't be nearly as good as, say, you get over here, kind of in those draws and creek beds, kind of close to the ag field, funneling into the ag field. So that'd be something to think about. You know, you hunt in a big woods area or a forested area, either way, or even like sometimes here in northern Missouri, we can get a lot of cattle pasture, and even in the Ozarks, you get a lot of cattle pasture with sporadic ag fields. And that would be something to key in on also, is that yes, those are fields, but they're just hay fields. Hit those ag fields. They're going to congregate to the limited ag fields again. So really, that's just, when I'm looking on a map for an out-of-state hunt, I don't have a ton of time a lot of times for an out-of-state hunt. So a river bottom and a big woods property can be difficult just because it could take you just a little bit longer to figure the property out. A little bit more scouting, maybe a couple years of hunting it to figure out where the patterns of movement are. And if you can nail down a property that's got, you can see it has a limited resource. So right when you get on property, you are in your head, you've got that limited resource kind of banked away. You can go find it. Figure out if it truly is a limited resource, because sometimes the maps are deceiving. If it's truly a limited resource, key in on it and find the bedding around it, somewhat close to it, and the funnels and main movement and pinch points leading into it and going away from it. And you could find yourself a pretty good setup. So when looking for places to like lease and buy, that's something to think about too. You know, if you're getting into actual habitat management, maybe you've got mostly pasture and woods where you've got a good acorn production, but you don't have any ag fields or food plots. That'd be something to think about doing, maybe throwing in an ag field or throwing in some food plots just to give the deer something more to eat, something kind of help that limited resource out just a little bit and give that to the deer to help you grow a good population and hopefully grow some good antlers. But you know, on the habitat management side of things, you've got minerals also and adding water holes. That's a big one as well. So gives you something a little bit to think about. Find those limited resources. It's going to really help you when you get on property to focus your scouting efforts. One, figure out if it's truly a limited resource, and then two, if it is, figure out how to hunt it. Figure out where you need to be in close proximity to it to hunt it, and you should see some really good success. So thanks for watching, y'all. Please hit that like and subscribe button to keep up with all of our upcoming content. I am upping my post frequency here. My goal is twice a week, but no less than once a week. That way you guys have plenty to go off of, and I hope all these tip videos help you out. The next e-scouting video we're going to do is focused on access, boat access, as well as foot traffic, and I'm going to go into the difference between canoe and kayak and even, you know, motorboat access, which makes a big difference from my experience. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.